Paging Aitken Robertson to courtroom number 2. The jury is back with a verdict. Members of the jury, how do you find the accused? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty on all accounts, Your Honor.
Welcome back to Legally Speaking. I'm Melanie van Orde, your host and paralegal. Today, Rawi Ashgar and I will discuss whether self-defense can apply if you were charged with an assault, for example, during a bar fight. Rawi, let's talk about a situation that a lot of people might actually relate to. Getting into a fight at a bar. If someone is charged with assault in that kind of scenario, can they claim self-defense?
Yes, actually they can. So self-defense is a recognized legal defense in Canada. It applies if a person reasonably believes that force is being used against them or that they're being threatened with force, and they act to defend themselves. However, not all force is justified, and the response must meet certain legal tests. And so the legal test for self-defense in Canada primarily revolves around the provisions in Section 34 of the Criminal Code. Under that section, a person is not guilty of an offense if they believe on reasonable grounds that force is being used against them or another person, and the act that constitutes the offense is committed for the purpose of defending or protecting themselves or the other person from that use or threat of force, provided the act committed is reasonable in the circumstances. And so basically what that means in plain English is that if someone, they have reasonable grounds to believe that they're under attack by some kind of force from someone else or some kind of force against that they know or a bystander, they respond with some kind of force and they could argue that it was done in self-defense based on whether they meet the legal test for self-defense, and it will be determined whether or not they're guilty. And so Section 34 of the Criminal Code elaborates on the factors to be considered in determining whether the act committed is reasonable. And this includes the nature of the force or threat, the person's role in the incident, whether any party or to the incident used or threatened to use a weapon, and the nature and proportionality of the person's response to the use or threat of force. One thing that I think that's really important to mention is if you come from like a mixed martial arts background, for example, where you're super skilled in fighting, that's going to be a factor that the judge will weigh when determining whether the response you employed, the physical response that you employed, was proportional to the threat or the force that was inflicted against you or another person.
So, Ravi, you touched on this. So it's fair to say it's not just a free pass to fight back however you want. What does the law say specifically about how much force you can actually use to defend yourself?
Yeah, so correct. The law requires that the force used in self-defense be proportional to the threat faced. So this means that the person defending themselves can only use as much force as is reasonably necessary to protect themselves from harm. Using excessive or unnecessary force could lead to criminal liability, even if the fight started off as self-defense. And like I mentioned earlier, coming from a background of skilled fighting or being a lot bigger in stature than the person who initiated the assault, those are kind of factors that the court considers and assessing whether excessive or unnecessary force was used. However, assuming that you're both of the same fighting skill level and you're more or less of the same stature, same size, and the force you used was proportional to the threat you faced. Generally, you should have a viable self-defense argument.
Well, thank you so much, Rawi, for all the information. And thank you to all our viewers for joining us on Legally Speaking. Remember, self-defense isn't a free pass. You need legal advice to understand if it applies and how it applies to your situation. Until next time, take care. Thank you for tuning in to Legally Speaking, proudly brought to you by Aitken Robertson Criminal Defence. We represent clients facing criminal charges all over Ontario, providing you with legal support and dedicated advocacy. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more content, please like and subscribe to our channel. For more information, visit our website. We also offer free books on various types of criminal charges, which you can request on our website or by using the QR codes on your screen now. For legal assistance, call us today or visit our website to request a meeting with one of our experienced lawyers or licensed paralegals. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Legally Speaking.